Hello everyone, it's Wendy. Welcome to my channel and to this 5th video in the Knitter's Classroom series where I will demonstrate how to make this baby sweater. You'll learn how to shape each of the pieces and seam them together. I will explain every step and add the instructions on the screen as I go for the 12-month size of the sweater. The link to the complete written pattern, which is available at a very fair price, and includes detailed instructions for sizes 2 years and 4 years as well, is included in the description below. If you've never made a sweater before, don't be intimidated. If you've been practicing along with the Knitter's Classroom videos, you already have many of the skills you'll need. To make this sweater, you will need a pair of 3¼ millimeter and 3¾ millimeter knitting needles. A 3½ millimeter will also work for the ribbing if that's all you've got. Alternately, you could use a circular needle and work back and forth, which is what I prefer to do, so you'll see that on the video, but straight needles will work just fine because this sweater is worked in flat pieces and then seamed together. The nice thing about learning how to make a baby sweater like this is it goes pretty quick, but the same principles apply for an adult sweater. So if you can make this little sweater, you can make a sweater in a much larger size as well. You will also need some number 3 baby yarn. I'll be using this Softy Baby Stripes. A 250-gram ball like this will make any of the 3 sizes. So the 12-month takes about 150 grams and the 4-year size will take pretty much the whole ball. So once you have those things ready, let's get started on making this sweater. We're going to start with the back piece of the sweater, which consists of a couple inches of ribbing across the bottom and then stockinette stitch with shaping for the raglan style sleeve. So starting with your smaller needle and about 4 feet of tail, or about a little over a meter, we're going to do a long tail cast on. So put your finger and thumb like that, making kind of a slingshot shape. Tip it towards you. Pick up the yarn from top to bottom like that. Scoop from the base of the thumb, tip of the finger, back through. You've made your first 2 stitches. Base of the thumb, pick up that front loop, tip of the finger, pick up the other loop, rock it back through the loop that's over your thumb, let go with your thumb, and snug it up. If you're not quite ready for this cast on, that's okay. Use the cast on that you know. Just make sure that it's going to be stretchy enough for the bottom edge of a baby sweater. You can start with 1 slip stitch on your needle as well and carry on from there. You will need 58 stitches cast on for the 12-month size. So I'm going to continue until I have 58, and then we'll come back and start the ribbing. A little tip for working with stripy yarn like this: if you start the piece where the sequence changes from one color to another, so in this case I'm starting just after it changed from gray to cream, it will be easier later on to match the front and the back starting with the same color. So with 58 stitches, with a little bit of room between to allow for some elasticity in your ribbing, we're going to do a knit 2, purl 2 ribbing, but I'm going to start with the purl 2. On the front I'll start with the knit 2, but so that they match up nicely at the side when I seam it together. On the back I'm going to start with a purl 2. So picking up the stitch from back to front, wrap the yarn, pull it to the back. So 2 purls, move the yarn to the back, 2 knits, 2 purls, 2 knits, and so on across. After 58 stitches, you should end up with purl 2s at the other end. We're going to go back and work the other way. You'll notice on ribbing that the first stitch tends to be a little bit loose because it doesn't have a stitch beside it to pull it and anchor it. So when you do the first stitch, which in this case my first 2 would be knits, we're going to knit the knits and purl the purls. And if you recall from the previous video, the purls have the little crossways bump and the knits have the V's. So because that first one is loose, my suggestion is to give a bit of a tug after the first 2 stitches, and that will help your edges not to be too loose. So after that you can relax your tension, but do the first 2 a little bit tight. Then knit the knits and purl the purls across. I'm going to repeat these 2 rows for a 2-inch ribbing, which will be about 12 rows in this gauge. Your gauge should be about 22 stitches and 30 rows for every 4 inches. Okay, so 22 stitches wide when you do your sample swatch in stockinette stitch should be 4 inches or 10 centimeters, and 30 rows should be about 4 inches or 10 centimeters. So to check that, just do a sample swatch that's about 6 inches square and measure so that you can be sure that your final sweater is going to come out the size that it should be. My ribbing is complete and I'm ready to start on the stockinette section of the back. I know that I'm on the right side because my tail is also on the right. So right hand side, right hand tail. I have 12 rows. It's good to know because when I make the front, I'll want to make it the same. To count that, start just above this first cast on bump, that first V. That's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 V's. Don't count the one on the needle. That row has not been knit. We don't know if it's knit or purl yet. So 12 rows facing right side. And I'm going to switch to my larger size needle. So that's the next step. Switch to the 3 3/4 mil needle, which would be a US number 9. So with your larger needle, knit every stitch on the right side and purl every stitch on the wrong side or the inside. Continue in that manner, which is a stockinette stitch, until the entire piece from the bottom of the ribbing to the top of your stockinette stitch measures 7 inches. That will get us to the point of the armhole, and then we'll decrease for the upper part of the sweater. This is a size 2 sweater. I should have mentioned it. So it's going to come, so the one we're making is going to come out smaller than this one. I'm going to work in stockinette up to the armhole, and then I'll come back and show you how to do the decreases I hope that you're enjoying this project so far. When the back from the bottom of the ribbing has reached 7 inches, the next step is to start the armhole angle. So we're going to decrease by 1 on each side and then continue decreasing up the shoulder. So with the right side facing, your next row, slip, slip, knit to start. Now a slip, slip, knit means that you slip 2 and knit them together. I like to slip the first one from the front knitways, slip the second one from the back purlways. Then put your left hand needle into both of those stitches in front of the right hand needle, wrap and knit them together. That gives you a nice left leaning decrease. Knit across to the other side. When you get to the last 2 stitches, knit those 2 together by picking them both up from the left at the same time and knitting them together. Now we've gone from 58 stitches that we started with down to 56. On the wrong side and every wrong side row for the rest of the back, just purl across. For the rest of the decrease rows, we're going to leave 1 stitch along the edge first. So to decrease, 1 on either side, you'll knit 1, then slip, slip, knit the second and third stitches, knit across to the other side, and stop when you get to the last 3. With 3 stitches left on the other end, knit 2 together, then knit the last stitch. So that's a decrease row. You're going to repeat. If you're following the pattern for the size 2 or the size 4, be careful to follow the decrease instructions for those sizes. But for this 12-month size, you're going to repeat that decrease row on every right side row. So every knit row, you'll do the decrease on either end, and every purl row, you're just purl. So that will decrease by 2 stitches every other row on the right side rows until you're down to 26 stitches. I'm back to the right side, which means I'm going to decrease, knit 1, slip, slip, knit, knit across, and then when I get to the last 3, knit 2 together, knit 1. So including this row, I'm going to do 14 decrease rows, and as I said, that will get me down to 26 stitches left. Then you'll purl 1 row and place the rest of the stitches on a stitch holder so that the right side will be facing when it comes to picking up stitches for the neckband. There's the back all finished. You can see that it slants in on either side for the sleeve opening, and my 26 stitches are on a stitch holder waiting to pick up later for the neckband. And now I'm ready to move on to the front of the sweater. The next piece of the sweater is the front. So it has ribbing across the bottom, and it continues the center ribbed section all the way up to the collar, which is kind of a neat detail with stockinette on either side. And again, that stops at 7 inches and then we'll decrease up the raglan sleeve. So it starts like the back by casting on 58 stitches as neatly as you can, and then a knit 2, purl 2, rib. But this time we're going to start with the knit 2. So the right side rows will have knit 2 on either end. The purl side rows, or the back side rows, will have purl 2 on either end. So knit 2, purl 2 across. Then on the reverse, or the wrong side, it will start and end with purl 2 and work the same number of rows of ribbing as you did for the front. Then we'll come back and I'll show you how to do the next part, the body of the front. With the ribbing for the front complete, switch to the larger needle and knit 22. The next 2 stitches should be purl stitches, and we want to maintain the next 3 ribs going up the front. So I'm going to purl 2, knit 2, 3 times, and then another purl 2. Okay, so knit up to this point, purl 2, knit 2 for the 3 ribs, 2 more purl 2, and then knit the matching 22 on the other side. On the back side, I want to maintain the pattern, so I'm going to purl the purls and knit the knits as I go across, just keeping the same pattern with the 3 ribs in the middle and purls on either side. You'll have noticed that I've been putting the instructions at the top of the screen. The reason for that is so that not only do you know how to make this sweater by watching me, but you'll begin to understand the abbreviations and how they work in the instructions, which will really help you to become an expert knitter. Now for the next part, we're going to continue in pattern. And when a pattern says continue in pattern, it means continue as it's already been established. So I'm going to repeat the last 2 rows so that this ribbing continues up the center and the rest is in stockinette stitch. I'm going to continue that until I get to 7 inches to match the back up to the armhole. So remembering to pull that first couple of stitches a little bit tighter so that your edge is nice and neat. Knit 22, rib across the center stitches, knit 22 on the other side, and then coming back, do the reverse. Purl 22, rib across the center, and purl 22. And I'll see you when I get to the 7-inch mark. So I'm at 7 inches, the same as I was at the back for the sleeve decreases to begin, and those work in the same way. In the first row, we're going to decrease 1 at each end by doing a slip slip knit in the first stitch and knit 2 together for the last 2 stitches. In the middle, just maintain the pattern so that the ribs continue up the front with stockinette stitch on either side. On the next row, the wrong side, just work even in pattern, so purl the purls and knit the knits, and then do the decrease rows as you did for the back. So knit one, slip, slip, knit the next two, maintain the pattern across, so knitting on the sides and ribbing in the middle. When you get to the last 3 stitches, knit 2 together, knit 1. So that's your decrease row, just like you did on the back. Continue to do the reverse rows, the backside rows in pattern. Then on every right side row, repeat that decrease row 5 times. You'll stop when you've narrowed it down to 42 stitches. Then we will start working the round cutout for the neck. After decreasing as described and getting down to 42 stitches, I did one more purl row to have the right side facing for the neck shaping. To shape the front neck, knit 1, slip, slip, knit, then knit 7. Knit 2 together and knit 1. Then I'm going to pattern across the next 16 stitches, which is essentially the ribbed section plus a stitch on either side. All right, that's 16. Knit 1, slip, slip, knit to decrease on this side. Knit to the last 3 stitches. Then knit 2 together and knit 1. We're going to work the shoulders on the 11 stitches on either side. So these 11 and these 11. And this center piece will be put on a stitch holder in a moment to hold it for later when we do the neckband. So with the wrong side facing, row 2, so on the pattern I'm on right shoulder, row 2, purl 11, and then I'm going to put the rest of the stitches on a stitch holder. Just sliding them right onto the stitch holder like this. If you don't have any of these, I think I found this one at the dollar store, or any yarn or craft store should have them. Okay, so we're gonna keep those aside for now and just work on these ones. For row 3 of the right shoulder, knit 1, slip, slip, knit, so that'll decrease, knit to the last 3, knit 2 together, knit 1. I'm going to purl across on the back side. And I'm going to repeat those 2 rows twice more. So slip, slip, knit the 2nd and 3rd stitch and knit 2 together for the last 2, purl back, and then do that again. That will get me down to 5 stitches. I'll come back when I've reached that point. Only 5 stitches left. The next row I'm going to knit 2, knit 2 together, purl back on those 4, for the next row knit 1, knit 2 together, knit 1, purl back on those 3, three left, knit 2 together and knit 1, purl those 2, and then I'm just going to bind off the last 2 by slipping the first stitch, knitting the second one, putting the first one over top. Then leaving a length of yarn for seaming later on, I'll cut it and pull it through. Okay, so there is the right shoulder coming up to a point. So the neck comes around like this. For the left shoulder, I'm going to put the 11 stitches on the outside back on the needle. Leave the center 16 stitches on the stitch holder, reattach the yarn, and purl across the 11 stitches on the outside. Of course, the other 2 sizes are going to have a different number of stitches left. Just follow the pattern for the other sizes, but the construction is the same. Next, I'll shape this other shoulder in the same manner. So I will slip, slip, knit the 2nd and 3rd stitch, knit 2 together at the other end, the 2nd and 3rd last stitches. Do that 3 times in total, and then follow the shaping as the instructions are on the screen. It corresponds to the other shoulder. When the front is complete, it should look something like this. I'll make it damp and lay it under a towel to block it, and then it will lay flat for sewing, but you get the idea. Let's move on to the next step. With the front and back complete, we're ready to move on to the last 2 pieces, which are the sleeves. You'll make 2 the same. They also start with a ribbed section at the bottom, and the center 3 ribs continue up the sleeve all the way to the neckline. We do need to modify the ribbing a little bit to make sure that those 3 ribs are in the center. Each size is slightly different, but for this smallest 12-month size, you're going to start by casting on 36 in the same way that you did the cast on for the front and the back. Row 1 of the ribbing is going to start with a purl 1. Then knit 2, purl 2 until the last stitch and purl the last stitch. So it's a knit 2, purl 2 ribbing with 1 purl on each end. The reason we need to put the 1 purl on each end is so that we can center those 3 ribs. It will become more obvious how this works once we get past the ribbing and do the main part of the sleeve. But for now, your first row is going to be purl 1, then knit 2, purl 2 across to the last stitch, purl 1. So the last stitch is a purl. Turn around to the wrong side, and on this side we'll knit the knits and purls, purl the purls, which means we start with 1 knit and then purl 2, knit 2 across to the last stitch, at the other end of that wrong side row, you'll find yourself with 1 single knit stitch at the end. Then simply repeat those 2 rows until you have 2 inches, or the same number of rows that you did for the front and back ribbing. The right side rows will have a single purl on each end of your knit 2, purl 2 ribbing, and the wrong side rows will have a single knit on each end. So I'll see you around. The sleeve cuff is finished. I'm on the right side with the tail on the right hand side. For the first row, knit 11, making sure to switch to your larger needle because we're done the ribbing. And just like on the front, after 11, you should have 2 purls coming up next. We're going to purl 2, knit 2, 3 times. That's 2, and this is the 3rd time for 3 ribs. Then 2 purls to finish off, make that 3rd rib stand out. Then knit the last 11 stitches. For the next row, on the wrong side or the inside of the sleeve, do just the opposite. So purl the first 11, then knit 2, purl 2, 3 times. After you do that 3 times, knit 2, and then purl the last 11. Repeat those 2 rows 1 time. So do exactly the same thing again. This row will have knit 11 on either side with the ribs in the middle. The next row will have purl 11 on either side with the ribs in the middle. I'll come back when I'm done the 2 rows. With those first 4 rows done, you can see why we had to offset the ribbing with a single purl on each side, because we needed these 3 ribs to continue up the center with an equal number of stitches on either side. Now we're going to start increasing to make the sleeve wider as it goes up. In order to do that, we're going to knit front and back in the first and the last stitch on the row. A knit front and back looks like this. Put your needle in and knit as per normal, but don't slide that stitch off of the left hand needle yet. Swing the right hand needle around, insert it into the back of that same stitch, wrap to knit, pull it back through and off. So I've turned that first stitch into 2 stitches by knitting into both the front and the back leg of the same stitch. Then continue in pattern across, knitting the knits and purling the purls. In the last stitch of the row, do an increased stitch again by knitting that stitch, leave it on the left hand needle, swing around and knit into the back of the same stitch, the back leg. So I have gone from the 36 stitches that I started with to 38. On the wrong side row, I'm going to continue in pattern, purling the purls and knitting the knits. So far I've done 4 rows and then an increase row and a work even row. I'm going to increase on the 4th row 3 more times, and then on the 6th row 3 times. So you can keep track of your rows with a stitch counter or row counter like this. Every time you get to 4 rows, do another increase, or you can just use a piece of paper. I have done an increase row and a return row. So now I'll mark down with the next row. I'll just put another tick on the paper and another tick with the next row. Then I know that I have 4 and I need to do another increase for the next row and so on. Just marking down each row as I go. And so after the 4th row, I'll do another increase. After that 4th row, I'll do another increase and so on, marking down each row as I go. That's another way to keep track, to make sure that you have the right number of increases in the right number of rows. So it doesn't have to be complicated or use any fancy tools. So I've done all of my increases. I now have 50 stitches on the needle, and that number will be different for the other 2 sizes, but for the small size, you should have 50. Continue straight or even without any increases until the sleeve measures 7 inches. So I've gotten to that point and I'm ready to start shaping the top part of the sleeve that slants inward. The next step is to bind off 2 stitches at the beginning of the next 2 rows. To do that, I'm simply going to slip the first stitch, knit the second one, pass the first one over. So that's 1 stitch bound off, knit another one, and pass the first one over. 2 stitches bound off on the right hand side. Then continue in pattern for the rest of the row. For the next row, another bind off on the right hand side of 2 stitches. So slip one as if to purl, purl one, put the first stitch over top to bind it off, purl the next stitch, and put the first one over top. So I've gone from 50 stitches to 46. If you're following along, you may want to pause and count at this point to make sure that you have the same number. I'm going to finish this row in pattern and then work 2 rows even. Just follow the instructions on the screen. Then we'll come back for our next decrease. So after this row, 2 more rows just even, knitting all the knits and purling all the purls. Now I'm going to start working some double decrease rows, which means I'll be taking 2 stitches less on each side, but I want to space them in from the edge a little bit. So knit the first one, slip, slip, knit the second and third stitch, and the fourth and fifth stitch. So I've got 2 decreases here. Work in pattern across until you get to the last 5 stitches. With 5 stitches left on my left hand needle, I'm going to knit 2 together, knit 2 together again, and then knit the last stitch. So I've decreased 2 on either side. On the wrong side, I'm just going to work even in pattern across, and every wrong side row will just be worked even in pattern across. All the decreases are on the right side. I'm going to do that double decrease 5 more times. That will get me down to 22 stitches. So every right side row 5 more times, do the double decrease. Remember to mark it down on your piece of paper so you can keep track. When the double decrease rows are finished, work 1 wrong side row so that you have the right side facing for the next row. There are 22 stitches on, and now I'm going to work a few more decrease rows. Knit the first stitch, slip, slip, knit on the second stitch, work across to the last 3 stitches, making sure to maintain that ribbed section in the center. With 3 stitches left, knit 2 together, knit 1. So that's a decrease row, just a single decrease row with a decrease on either side. So I've gone down by 2 stitches in that row. Again, every wrong side row work even. And work that decrease row 7 more times. At that point, you will have 6 stitches left on the needle, at least for this smallest size. The other 2 sizes, again, just follow along with the numbers on your pattern, but the construction is very similar. After a couple more decrease rows, you'll find that you have no more knit stitches left on the side, only these rib stitches in the center. What you'll do is just continue with your slip slip knit for the second and third stitch, and then for the in-between stitches just knit the knits and purl the purls to maintain that rib all the way up to the top of the sleeve. By the time we get to the neckline, there will be only that one rib left in the center, but you'll see why it's important to maintain that when we get to the neckline. On the back side or the wrong side, just follow along knitting the knits and purling the purls. So with this last one, I have one more purl stitch left there, but because it's the third last stitch, I'm going to put my yarn to the back, knit those 2 together, and knit 1. Then, as I said, on the wrong side, purl the purls. So the first 2 are purls. The next one's a knit, and then there's 2 purls. So we'll just follow along, keeping them the same. Before you know it, you'll be down to the last row. So I'll knit the first stitch, slip, slip, knit the second and third. I've got just the one rib left in the middle, so knit 2 for that one. Knit the second and third last one together, and knit the last one. So there's the sleeve all finished. Put the last 6 stitches on a stitch holder, and it's time to sew the pieces together. If you look at my size 2 sample here, you'll see that you need to seam up either side, and the sleeves get seamed up to the top here, and when we do the neckline, it continues the ribs, 1 at the sleeve, 3 at the front. So it's kind of a nice little detail on the sweater. So taking your pieces, sew the right hand seam, so right as if you're wearing it, from the underarm to the cuff at the bottom edge of the cast on. Then pinning the sleeve to the front and the back, stitch that in place on the right, and also the seam at the bottom of the sleeve. On the left hand side, sew your seam together, and you can see if you do a neat job and use similar colors, it really disappears. Then I'm going to take the other sleeve and a yarn needle, and putting the right sides together, sew from the end of the sleeve up to the armhole. Just carefully matching up the 2 sides, picking up the outside stitch on either side and stitching it round and round. When the sleeve seam is done, continue up the front, the angle, the raglan part, sewing the sleeve to the upper front, but leave the back open because we're going to pick up for the neck, work that straight, and sew the back together later on. So trying to keep the edges as tidy as possible, just picking up that outside stitch and lining it up so that it will meet at the top and sew that seam together. Using your smaller needle again, we're going to start picking up the neckband stitches at the top of that sleeve where you just sewed the front seam, okay, the left-hand sleeve. So I'm going to start by putting those 6 stitches back on the needle. And begin by doing, for the 12-month size, purl 2, knit 2, purl 2 at the top of this sleeve, and I'll put the instructions on the screen. For the other sizes, it might be slightly different instructions, so make sure if you're following along on the pattern, to check your pattern. So purl 2, knit 2, purl 2. It's always a little awkward at the beginning with these ends. Then down the front of the neck, pick up and knit 13 stitches. Just try and make them evenly spaced down the slope of the neck. Put the stitches from your front stitch holder back on the needle, and you will follow the rib pattern. So knit 1, and then purl 2, knit 2 3 times, then purl 2 and knit 1. Just follow the instructions on the screen, but essentially you will be knitting the knits and purling the purls of your ribs at the front so that they continue up the neckband. On the other side of the front, just pick up another 13 stitches. Again, trying to make them evenly spaced up the side of the neck here. Then transfer the stitches from the top of the other sleeve and purl 2, knit 2, purl 2. Now all that's left is the back of the neck. I'm going to transfer these stitches onto my other needle, and then I'll come back. knit across the stitches from the stitch holder at the back of the neck. With all of the neckband stitches on the needle, turn to the wrong side, and beginning with a purl 2, knit 2 across. Then repeat that row for 1 inch of ribbing before binding off. I have done 8 rows of ribbing, which to me seems like a nice width. You can see that on the front here the ribs line up with the ones down the center. If you find that yours don't line up properly and you can't figure it out, don't worry too much about it. Just do a knit 1, purl 1 rib for the neckline and it will be just fine. Alright, now I'm going to bind off. My first 2 stitches are purl stitches, so I'm going to slip the first one. You can purl the first one too, doesn't matter. I just find because the first one's loose, I tend to slip it. Put the first one over the second one. The next one's a knit stitch, so knit it, put the first one over. Being careful not to pull too tight. You don't want the neckline to not be able to stretch over the baby's head. So keep it fairly relaxed and bind off in rib, meaning that you knit the knits and purl the purls as you're binding off. With the neckband complete, all that's left to do is to sew the ribbing together at the neckband and to sew down the last seam to fasten the sleeve to the upper left back. And there we go, our cozy 12-month sweater. It's not complicated, it has some nice simple lines, and it's just a cozy gift or grandchild sweater, whatever you need it for. I hope that you've enjoyed following along with me and that the video gave you the confidence to try this pattern for yourself. I'd love to hear from you. Drop me a comment or give me a like or subscribe. It lets YouTube know that you'd like to see more of this content, and it gives me encouragement to carry on with making these videos. Thanks again for joining me, and have a super day.